Yes, thank you to the Arab Organization of Human Rights in the UK for initiating this important opportunity for dialogue. I agree with Jeff Halper that we need to sort of see, or that I believe the best way of sort of looking at this legislative development is by looking at the bigger picture, and that this is yet another instrument that Israel adds to its spectrum of means to implement its settler-colonial erasure of the indigenous Palestinian population, which it started even before the establishment of the state, and then got its first culmination with the Nakba, and then the '67 war, and so forth, and through a combination of displacement and elimination and killings to get rid of as much of the indigenous Palestinian population. And the introduction of this bill is yet adding another tool to that toolbox, so to speak. Israel already retains the opportunity of the death penalty in its laws since its establishment, but has only applied it partly or importantly as a result of very significant objections to the death penalty in Jewish law. Has only applied it so far in the Eichmann case, and has refrained from considering the death penalty in its at least as a judicial measure in its struggle against the Palestinians, as other speakers rightly highlighted. I mean, it has resorted to extrajudicial killings at a large rate, but has so far refrained from further expanding the opportunity to use the death penalty in its struggle against the Palestinians. And this is indeed this legislation, and also the likelihood, the way it's been presented, and the judicial avenue, or the parliamentary avenue that is used with only the votes of those absent in the Knesset, not contributing to the elective process or to the legislative process. Quite likely that the law will be adopted, probably quite rapidly. There's the concern, or there's already talk about making the law, something that is unheard of, and also further shows how Israel is sort of in a kind of bubble, completely losing its sort of own values, as well as adherence to sort of general principles of law, principles of international law, and so forth. As there is significant debate about a retroactive application of the law, that the law can be used to commute the penalties of existing prisoners who have been convicted of, the categories of crimes for which the death penalty is considered, and can sort of retroactively be applied to those who are already convicted currently of long prison sentences. And that's, of course, something that's unheard of. Now, looking at this systemically, looking at it from the perspective of international law, I mean, the starting point is that Israel has no authority whatsoever to promulgate these laws over the occupied Palestinian territory, both the Gaza Strip and the West Bank and East Jerusalem. The International Court of Justice has made that crystal clear in 3 successive advisory opinions. The most important one that of July of last year, but it was preceded in terms of articulating the application of sort of binding norms, peremptory norms of international law already in its ruling of 2004 ruling on the barrier, on the wall, and then again on the ruling last month on the essentially judging the laws by the Israeli Knesset to try to put a stop to the operations of UNRWA, the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency. So Israel has absolutely no authority, as the highest court has established. It should be out of the OPT. It should abolish its system of apartheid, of discriminatory laws. It should remove the settlers. Now, of course, Israel has ignored those rulings, as it has also ignored the ruling, the provisional ruling by the ICJ on the genocide case initiated by South Africa. But it doesn't mean that the starting point also for advocacy and for engagement of third countries is that illegality, and especially as the principles from which the illegality flows are provisions erga omnes, are imperatives of international law that apply not just to Israel, but apply to all other UN member states, and in particular, obviously, to member states that have influence over Israel's conduct. And it's interesting that the most recent ruling of the ICJ happened on the same day that Francesca Albanese released her latest report as UN Special Rapporteur. The force of her reports dealing specifically with the Gaza genocide, and essentially making clear that the genocide in Gaza is, yes, first and foremost perpetrated by Israel, but it is at the same time a collective crime. And if it were not for the complicity of the US, as the previous speaker correctly mentioned, but another 60 states that have in different ways enabled the genocide to happen, and by extension, the other atrocity crimes, the continuation of a regime of apartheid in not just in Gaza and the West Bank, but also in Israel proper, the other war crimes and crimes against humanity that Israel has been very, without any doubt and with an abundance of evidence being established that Israel has made itself guilty of. All of these crimes, the countries that have provided weapons, that have provided Israel with political cover, with diplomatic cover in the Security Council, in other fora. It's not just a veto of the 5 permanent members. There is also watering down language of resolutions in other fora, the half-hearted measures that the European Union has been taken, the facilitation of trade, the facilitation of academic and cultural and sport connections and so forth. All of that, allows the system of settler-colonial erasure to continue, and this new law, from my perspective, is just, as I said, another element in the Israeli toolbox. I believe that indeed, for human rights organizations, activists, investigative journalists, also diplomats, and increasingly the members of the the global majority, previously referred to as sort of the global south, needs to leverage that third country responsibility, which is on the one hand a responsibility for states that make themselves complicit in, they are complicit in the commission of international wrongful acts, generating state responsibility, but that increasingly, and especially where, in the case of genocide and in the case of the most serious atrocity crimes, the political acts and inaction by key leaders of the global minority, formerly the global West, are giving rise to individual criminal responsibility by voting to shield Israel of accountability, by refusing to pass legislation to stop arms deliveries, and so forth, and so forth. And for all the details, have a look at Francesca Albanese's reports, which document this in great detail. So you begin to see that Western leaders are getting nervous about it. On the one hand, they don't want to be accused of anti-Semitism, but on the other hand, it's also not good on your CV if you're sort of complicit in the commission of genocide and other atrocity claims. So at the political level, it can be leveraged. Lawyers can leverage it in national courts because all of those uh, provisions that have been violated by Israel uh, uh, are of such a magnitude that they give rise to jurisdiction of national court to pursue perpetrators. So I think that is really an avenue that should very strongly be pursued in addressing those ever more extreme developments that are happening in Israeli society. And let me leave it at that.